All right, guys, so I thought I'd clue you in on what's going on because my last description of what I was doing may not have been adequate enough. So I have these two coil housing, and I think you can gather just by looking at them what's going to happen. They're going to go on either side of the rotor like this. Let me turn the camera up so you can see it a little bit better. They're going to go on the housing like this. I mean, on the rotor like this. And then, of course, I'm going to have wire. I'm going to wrap like window motor coil windings on here, if you guys are familiar with the window motor. And so I'm using brass rods to separate these guys like so they'll be nice and tight. And I thought I'd clue you in a little behind the scenes thing. Right now I'm cutting the brass rods and I'm tapping them. That is a drill tap, or a self-starting tap, or a tap that's kind of like it's a spiral tap is what it is, I'm sorry, which helps to evacuate the chips more easily. And I have tapping fluid. And so I don't normally show you guys what happens, you know, how I actually do this stuff. So I thought I'd give you a little insight into what I'm doing. And who knows, maybe I'll even break a tap on camera for you. It's getting really tight. And it's also not very straight, but that's all right. And then I need to find some brass bolts to go in here. Right now I'm just testing it with regular bolts, which will work just fine probably. But yeah, so I'm tapping these to put these guys together. I'm printing out the feet for these because these are going to sit just about right on the edge there. And the feet are 80 millimeters, or the legs. So yeah, I thought I'd show you that. So I do a lot of work behind the scenes, so to speak, that I don't show you guys. But anyway, stay tuned. Just to back up my statement that I make my own tools, this is my small vise, drill press vise that I made. And here's my disc sander. But I think I showed you guys all that stuff before. But this one works good. I made another one that's up here that is okay, but this guy really grabs. What I need to do, though, is I need to wax these steadying rods and put some oil on this. And I also need to shorten this. This is way too long. I need to cut it to like right about here and put it on, because it's too far out there. Anyway, thought I'd just show you that really quick. I use this to drill the brass rods out so that I can tap them. All right, anyway, so it's getting there. So you can see, right? Going to use the brass, and I ordered more brass rods, and then the wire is going to go around like this, then go around like this, then go around like this. I mean, I know how to wrap a window motor coil. So yeah, that's looking pretty good. Got to tighten everything up, and I have to get brass bolts and brass screws, but until then, I'll just use these. All right, back at it. So I ordered some more brass rods, and I didn't drill these out too well, so I'm not going to use these. This is just a mock-up. And then here's the legs that are going to go on top of that like so, or like so. And then that whole thing will go over there after I wind it, of course. Yeah, so I'm printing out the other two legs. I will use not crazy glue, but the acrylic glue, which means I have to figure out a way to clamp this. So I might have to take this guy apart anyway, because I need to clamp. That acrylic glue is great, but it needs a clamp. Anyway, so out of the bazillion different style clamps I have, and I have a lot. I've got spring clamps. I've got the Craftsman bar clamps. I've got little tiny spring clamps. I've got little ones. Out of all these clamps, rubber bands do the trick. All right, so while I'm waiting for things to dry and things to print, I can always wind coils. So that's 20, what is that? 21 and 25 gauge, not 21 and 23. I think that's 21 and 25. I wrote it on there. Do you see it? Yeah, 25. I mean, I'm sorry, 21 and 25. And here's the coil I'm going to use. It's going to be a bifilar coil because it's going to be a pickup and run coil. Yeah, I think. What I should do is take the time I have now to build my coil winding machine. But I saw this YouTuber, I forget his name, I apologize, dude, who built a really nice one. I mean, it's got the, you know, the mechanism that tracks, that'll hold the bobbin, and then, you know, but that's a major undertaking. I'd have to clear all this stuff and come up with a plan and yada, yada, yada. So until then, I'll just wind it by hand. Anyway, yeah, cool. So I think it's 21. Let me make sure. I can't really see. Yeah, 25 and 21 gauge. I think that's what it is. Anyway, 23 gauge and 25. I didn't want to go to 21, even though normally what I would wind would be a 23 and a 21. But I'm going to try this one. So 25 and 23. All right. Cool. All right. So some of you may look at this and go, wait a minute. The shearing force is no good. It's going to break off. Well, you would be right. So what I'm going to do is print out some equally sized but thin brackets for either side and glue them to this stem and this housing part, the lower part, on both sides and on both sides. So that'll take care of the pull and shearing force. I mean, at least as much as this is going to have. It's not, you know, it's basically going to just sit there. So there's not going to be a lot of force on it, but I don't want to take any chances. Stay tuned. So I finished winding the coil, and I had something creepy happen. When I loosened the nut to pull the coil off, I heard all this cracking and screeching, and I think it was the top, because you can see I probably wound it too tight. It's still staying together, but I think the top might have been trying to separate, because I print these coils in two halves, a lower part and then a top. And you can see it's concaved a little bit. I don't know if you can make that out on the camera, but I certainly can. And it weighs a ton. So I'm going to have to immediately resin this puppy up so it doesn't fall apart. So I've been thinking about this for a while. I got to get myself a pressure pot, because I make a lot of things that involve resin. Even though I'm not very good at it, I still make a lot of things like these coils. They could benefit by going into a pressure pot. The resin would then get impregnated all the way into the coil, keep the coil together. Not that I don't think it's going to fall apart. That acrylic number 16 cement works really good, because this thing cracked all over the place. I mean, it was making sounds. It didn't do anything, but you can see, you probably see that it's concaved, meaning that the outer portion where the glue was from the top to the bottom was probably separating. But if I had a pressure pot, I could put resin on there, put it in the pressure pot, it would absorb it, take it out, put more resin on. I think that's how it works. I mean, most of the time you just have a ton of resin, but I wouldn't, well, I could dip the whole thing in there into a larger vat of resin, which would really protect the coil, but then I don't know what it would do for the performance. So, waiting on those guys to dry, this guy here, and then I'm trying to figure out how I want to wind the coil. I know how I'm going to wind it, but what am I going to wind it with? Am I going to use 25, 23, 21? Am I going to make it a bifilar coil where I'm putting 2 strands on there? Because it's going to be a big job. And I don't want to miss an opportunity. So if you guys have an opinion if I should go 2-wire, single wire, large gauge, small gauge, medium gauge is all I really have. I have 25, 23, and 21. What gauge should I do? And again, that's for this guy here, who's going to sit on top of this very much like a Windows motor. Oops. And the wires are going to run all the way around, or as far as I can go with this. I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can do 6 sets of turns on here. Anyway, if you guys have an opinion on that, please share it with me. I'd love to hear it. I don't think I'm going to get to it today, but I will upload this stuff, show you where I'm at. Here's the platform that I built to put the coil on, or to put a coil on, specifically one of Sky's coils, that beefy monster that's a bifilar coil. I think I may just go with the single wire on that, because that's how I've seen most of the Windows motors. But I have an opportunity here where I can actually do bifilar on that and see if I can run this guy with one of the coils, with one of the wires, turn it into a run and a pickup coil. I don't know. Let me know, guys. All right, that's it. Ciao.